Okay. I'm going to speak about world efforts, world topic, a global topic. No, it's not about the environment. And it's going to really stir a lot of people. I hope it stirs knowledge and thinking. My video is not meant to propagate, perpetuate, or incite any kind of violence. I am a firm believer that history and recorded history is the only way to prevent people from being subjugated by events similar to what has happened in the past. And I want to talk about a very, very, very hard topic to talk about. I want to talk about oppression. I don't want to use the word, I'm going to say it this one time, just so that people understand. A word gets tarnished and loses value when it is used too much. Using this word is kind of like using the word literal when you mean something has happened. It loses value because it's like everybody says, literally. I mean this literally. And I hope people will take this mention as a serious thing. When you overuse something, you devalue it. When you devalue it, you lose the lesson that you're trying to teach. You lose the impact that you're trying to get. And you lose the battle. Because there is a movement to stop something that's still going on globally by erasing the past in the United States. They're not going to achieve the goal. And while they're worrying about monuments done up in the 1800s, there are people that are being oppressed now in this country, in other countries. There is so much oppression, and I'm going to get into that. So, first I want to acknowledge that the word slavery is just one facet of oppression. So we're going to talk about oppressed people, and I'm going to try not to slip up and use that word because I think it's overused. Now, why do we need a history lesson? Because we're still repeating the mistakes of the past. And as far back as recorded history or carved history goes, maybe even as far back as caveman drawings. I don't know this. Don't take me up on this. Verify any facts you want to for yourself. But I believe there was some kind of oppression documented even back in the days of cave dwellings. It's been some form of human nature for as long as history has existed. And I'm not condoning it, and I don't believe it should happen. But I do think that as a world, we are messing up by removing monuments that remind us of what has happened in the past. And, if you really want to start removing symbolism of oppression and oppressed people, You're going to have to remove religious emblems from every single religious institution on the planet. Every one of them. Because every one of those religions oppressed another people that did not believe the way they did. And that was definitely the case in the United States with the Native Americans. It was also the way with the Jewish people in Egypt. So all you high standard people that are going, we need to remove monuments from the 1800s that propagate oppressed people in the United States of America, and a war that was based on it, according to one side. Both sides have a view, both sides have a history, both sides should not be forgotten. It's our history. It's happened. Okay? If you want to erase slavery, and there's that word, I hate it. Not because I don't think it happened. I know it happened. It also was measured out as sharecropper. It was also measured out as mine worker. It was also measured out as, people that were working in agriculture. Clear up until now, low wages, worked all day, and given affordable housing as an incentive in some cases, but they can't seem to get out of the cycle because they're in that cycle. It's just a different form of oppression, people. People being put in sweatshops, working, doing sewing. People that didn't make it in the sewing, but they were attractive, maybe got sold for recreational and entertainment purposes. If you think that's anything other than what we're talking about, oppressed people, then you're mistaken. Now let's get back to a lot of these people that are making a big fuss. Do they go to a museum? It's a good question. Has any of these people that yell about oppression, yell about the United States' history in oppression, do they go to museums? Do they watch National Geographic? Do they do things that propagate the history of oppression? I mean, if we're going to remove monuments, we're going to have to wipe Egypt's pyramids off the map. Severe abuse of people from neighboring lands. Severe malnutrition. Whipped to death. We'll have to remove those. We're going to have to go to the Mayan population. Every time they needed something from their gods, again, going back to religion, you got a religion, you got a problem with somebody, somebody's going to pay for not being like you, and this is going to tick off a lot of people. But I mean, Germanic tribes in Europe during the Crusades were hunted down for being pagans. You had the Persian army wiping out anybody that didn't think like them, and then taking them and oppressing them with whips and chains and lucid acts and things. You have to go through every empire, every country, and every place on this planet and destroy every single monument. You don't have enough time to do this, but yet you're focused on what happened in the 1800s, when that in the United States' history is a blink in history. You're going after a symptom when you need to go to the root or the cause. The oldest empires ever found on the planet Their history is preserved in museums. It is charged by admission and considered a great treasure. A treasure. Nobody's paying admission to go see a statue of some general that died in the 1800s. But they're paying to go see somebody that died in AD, that took his own people or her own people and whipped them and chained them and starved them and mistreated them. And then we come along, dig up their crap from way back when, throw it in a museum. All of a sudden it's a historic piece of art and a historic record. Now, the whole reason behind keeping those things should be, and should have always been, to preserve the history of the past so that we do not repeat it in the future. And people have come along and tried to get rid of that before. Somebody defaced the Sphinx. We don't know why it was defaced, but it was defaced. Monuments that were in the Greek Empire were defaced. When the Germans, and when we say German, I should really narrow that down to the Nazi Party, was thrown out of office, their statues and their emblems and their signs and their things were erased. Okay? And we're trying to do that again in the United States and doing a pretty good job of it, it sounds like. But at the same time, we're forgetting history. We're forgetting why those things are there. You forget why they're there. You forget that it happened. You may not, but your children will. They'll forget why these things happened. Okay? You know, children today, they had nothing to do with slavery. My generation didn't have anything to do with it. The generations of people that their forefathers, their ancestors, their people, however you want to say it, that were oppressed and mistreated and chained and imprisoned. Now, when you think of imprisonment, you're going to think about the Jewish people and the Nazis. Well, encampment in the United States in the 40s of Japanese citizens, yeah, that's a form of it. We did that. I don't see people trying to erase the land of all traces of what happened there. I don't see people trying to erase Auschwitz. They're preserving it. Why? So people remember what happened there. Is it a pretty thing? No, it's not. But they're preserving it so that people will remember. Because if you remove all traces of history, you repeat it. The fact it takes an uneducated hillbilly or a poorly educated hillbilly, somebody with just a slight bit of college and a whole lot of common sense, to say somebody's trying to perpetuate the forgetting of oppression. And people are joining the bandwagon. People are trying to perpetuate the forgetting of oppression. It's been done before. It happens over and over and over again. The winner succeeds. The winner rewrites history in their version. Why are we trying to erase oppression, chains, whipping, and a war that nearly tore our country apart What is the end game? I hope everybody watches this, and I hope that you don't turn this into a fight fest or a hate fest, because this isn't what this is meant to be. It's meant to be a way to make people to think. We're about to make an avenue, an expressway for history to repeat itself in some version. And I hope people stop. Or if you're going to do it the right way. Go ahead and get rid of the museums, get rid of Auschwitz, get rid of the pyramids, get rid of the Mayan temples, get rid of every single major society that killed and maimed. And while you're at it, you're going to have to get rid of religion from one end of this world to the other, because it all perpetuated oppression, chains, whipping, slavery. That's your choice.